we have almost come to the moment for which we have been waiting for so long. I would like to call upon Mr. Amrik Singh of JIA's group to offer flower bouquet to Sir Sri M. Before I hand over the microphone to Sir, he actually makes things easier for all of us every time. For any announcer, he needs to, recapitulate how to introduce or how to describe. But for him, since he is here, he doesn't need to be introduced at all. And once a great teacher of Vedanta was invited to speak on Vedanta and, practical Vedanta. So he came and addressed the audience by asking, do you know what I'm going to tell you today? So everybody said no. Then that great teacher of Vedanta said, since you don't have any background, I'm not going to talk to you at all. And he moved away. 1 week later, the same great teacher of Vedanta was invited again to talk to the same audience on the same topic. He came here, but this time the audience was prepared. So he asked the same question and they said, yes, in chorus. So then he said, since you know everything what I am going to talk to you about. He again left. So next time the audience tried to be cleverer. When he asked the same question, half of them said yes, half of them said no. So then that great teacher of Vedanta said, those who said no, learn it from those who said yes. So the next time, when he asked the same question, it was a pin drop silence. Everybody was absorbed in deep silence. Then the great teacher of Vedanta realized, now it's time to talk about practical Vedanta. I would now throw the house open, but before that I would just like to remind you that tomorrow there will be yet another session where we will get a greater opportunity to talk to him directly. It will be an interactive session at Press Club which will start at 3:30 p.m. So I am sure all of you would join us tomorrow. Sir.
Om Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanam Shalakaya Chaksharmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwarat Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So, namaskar to all of you, especially the Chief Justice of the Kolkata High Court, Sri Radhakrishnan ji, is also here. I think he came half an hour before anything started. Thank you, sir. So nice to have you here. This is not my first time in Calcutta. Second time? Third time? I don't know. So the subject given to me today is practical Vedanta in everyday life. Yeah. So first we have to see what Vedanta could mean and what everyday life is all about. Everyday life you would know what it is all about. If you look at Vedanta and try to fit both these things together, then we have the subject of the talk today. I'm quite accustomed to sitting comfortably with cross-legged. I feel like I'm hanging on a peg here. But that's okay. It's quite comfortable. With my age advancing, I can lean probably. There is a word in Sanskrit, Brahmaleen, means leaning towards the Brahman. So, let's start. Now the word Vedanta, let me explain this first. In fact, today's beautiful music song, which started with the lovely song of Narsingh Mehta of Gujarat, Vaishnava Janato, kind of explains how to lead this everyday life with the heart anchored in the Vedantic understanding. So, the word meaning of Vedanta is Veda, Anta. Veda, you know the Vedas. Anta, the end of the Vedas. Which doesn't mean to finish the Vedas, not the end of the Vedas. It means that particular subject which is dealt with in the last part of the Veda. Now when you say Vedas, people usually think Vedas are Samhitas. No. Vedas include Samhita portion, both Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharvana Veda, all four include the Samhita. They start with the Samhita portions, then basically hymns, and then move on to what are called Brahmanas. Brahmanas are those part of the Vedas, those that deal with the ceremonial practices which are required for normal human beings like you and me. Not always, but many times. And then from the Brahmanas, you go to what are called Aranyakas. Now, Aranyakas, from the word Aranya, which means the forest, it's that wisdom which was taught in the forest academies, where the rishi sat with the student face to face and in an intimate atmosphere studied and understood the secrets of the Samhitas and the Brahmanas, what they actually mean, what is the essence of the Vedas. This is the Aranyaka. Now Upanishad forms the last part of the Aranyaka section, when it's kind of from Aranyaka to Upanishad is a very, very smooth transit. And in fact, some Upanishads are Aranyakas. So this is the Upanishad, which means that which comes at the end of the other parts of the Vedas, so it's included in the Vedas. It's not a separate section. Now, in the Upanishads, which are the essence of the Vedas, there are 4 Mahavakyas, 4 important sentences, Mahavakyas, words which are Maha, meaning great, which are Ayam Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, Tat Tvamasi, and Aham Brahmasmi. These are the 4 Mahavakyas in the Upanishads. Now the work of the Upanishads, the job of the one teaching the Upanishads, is to explain the meaning of these 4 kind of cryptic words. Like Tattvamasi, what does that mean? Ayam Atma Brahma, what does that mean? Explaining this is what you call the Upanishad. So, what is the Upanishad? What exactly is the Upanishad? Upanishad consists of 3 syllables, Upa, Ni and Shat, of which the first syllable, Upa, let's look at that closely. Upa means to move closer, go nearer, N-E-A-R, near, not close, but close. So, Upa means, so what does it mean here? People say, oh, we are doing Upavasa for 4 days. Upavasa means what? Is it simply not eating food? Or is it traveling towards that which is close to us? Upavasa, moving towards that which is near to us. In fact, somebody said, that which you seek is nearer to you than your own neck vein. So, Upa is to move closer to the truth. Truth as opposed to what we think is the truth but is not. Which is why there is this ancient Vedic prayer, Asato ma sadgamaya, may I move from that which, or take me from that which is not true to that which is true. But look at us. We live in this world thinking that whatever we see, whatever we hear, this is true. This is the truth. We don't ever question, can this be truth or is there something different to it? Is it as we think it is or is it more than what we think it is. Now this question, to understand this question and to move towards it is upa. Now there is a middle syllable, ni. I'm leaving it for the time being. Let's go to the last syllable, shad. Now shad. Why I'm saying this is because the Upanishad is the body of literature which deals with the essence of Vedanta. So shad. Shad means, literally it means to sit down. Shad. Which means, now when you sit down, I know that you're interested in listening to me. When you stand up, I know you're ready to go, so there is no interest in listening. So sitting down is to settle down carefully, calmly, trying to listen to what is being said. This is shad. Now, it's not enough if the body sits down. The mind has also to sit down. Otherwise your body will be here, but your mind will be on, already the program got too late, I don't know whether how to go back home. See, then the mind is not sitting down, body is sitting down. So shad also means that the mind is also settled. When the body and mind are settled, and then one listens to what the Rishi is saying, not me, is saying, then it's called the Upanishad. Okay. Adi Shankara, who is one of the greatest commentators on the Upanishads, gave another meaning to shad. He said shad also means to shake up. Shake up what? Shake us up from the ordinary mode of understanding in which we are. Where he called it waking one up from the sleep of ignorance, shaking one up from the sleep of ignorance. So what is the sleep of ignorance according to Shankara? Same thing that we discussed, which is looking at things which are not real and thinking they're real, and thereby not being able to see that which is real. So this shad is that shaking up, manthan. But psychologically, when you take to the practical study of the Upanishad, what happens in the shake-up? You know what happens in the old story of the Samudra Manthan, when the Devas and the Asuras churned the ocean of milk? What came out first? So when you first begin the churning, what is inside comes out. The psychiatrist knows this. He talks to you, everything that is inside comes out. And if it doesn't come out, you cannot get rid of it. So when you begin the actual churning, it's a spiritual exercise, very often what is inside, what is stale, what is covering the truth comes out. And then that is the time not to get frightened and run away, but to deal with it and go beyond. So this is another meaning of shaking up. Shad. And what does ni mean? Ni is a word in the middle to connect these two, and it kind of defines the position of the teacher and the taught. How does it define the position? The word niche in Hindi, down, comes from the root ni. According to the Upanishad, physically now we are in the correct position. You're down and I'm up. But that's not the meaning of that. The meaning of that is the study of the Upanishad begins with the understanding that, with the humility of understanding that I don't know, so let me listen. Let me hear and understand. The disciple went to the Rishi, not saying that I know, but saying that I don't know. So please, can you teach me? Look into the Upanishads. Most of the Upanishads are dialogues between the teacher and the taught. And there is an open dialogue between the two, where the teacher says something, the disciple looks at it and says, so now what? In fact, there is an Upanishad called the Prashna Upanishad, which means question Upanishad. There is an Upanishad called Keno Upanishad, Who Upanishad, which says, who are you, actually? The identity crisis has been there for 2000 years. Who am I? Nothing new. Who am I? So, there is an Upanishad which is called the Who Upanishad, Keno Upanishad. It is one of the most ancient and principal Upanishads that we have. So this is the Upanishad, the dialogue between the teacher and the taught, trying to find the truth, which means, when I say I'm finding the truth, trying to find the truth, which means I have realized that what I think is true may not be true. There may be something else beyond. Something is, but that is not as I think it is. It could be something else. Now for that you need an open mind. And that open mind is what is required in the understanding of Vedanta. Vedanta basically is the Upanishad. Of course, the Bhagavad Gita is also an Upanishad. How? The Gita itself proclaims at the end of each chapter, Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So this is the Bhagavad Gita. Upanishads, this is the Upanishad. What is the subject matter? Brahma Vidyayam. It is the knowledge of the truth of the Brahman. Yoga Shastra, it is also the practical way of how to find that Brahman. It's easy to say, oh well, the world is not as it seems, there is this real. But how do you touch it? To touch it, you need sadhana, practice. There are different ways of calming your mind and reaching out to that which is infinite. So this training is yoga. Yoga is not merely standing on your head. I mean, that's also yoga, part of yoga, because yoga has many parts. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, ashtanga, 8 parts of yoga. So your asana, you see, is only one of them. In fact, last year I was in Geneva talking to the WHO. They said, we need a talk on yoga. I said, can we call it yoga beyond asanas? Because people usually think, asanas are good. I have been practicing yoga asanas from the age of 10. I'm 70 now. Unless I have a fever, I can't get up, I do daily 15 to 20 minutes. Probably that's the secret of my physical stamina, I think. I don't know. Maybe there's another energy inside. But definitely yoga asanas are good, but yoga is the science of trying to find the truth by stilling the mind. Patanjali describes yoga in his standard text on yogic teachings, yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of the disturbances and distractions of the mind. First step. When that happens, then the mind becomes clear. Now, at the moment we can't see the mind anywhere except in the brain. So let's say the brain becomes clear for the time being. It's a question of whether the mind only is the brain or the brain is... We won't discuss that right now, but now we know only the brain. So let's say when the brain becomes still, free of distraction, free of disturbances, free of conflicts and contradictions, when the mind becomes calm, it becomes the runway, just the beginning, from which one can take off to the higher levels of understanding, when you begin to understand what is truth and what may not be true but appears to be true. For instance, example, if something is true, it must be true for eternity. M is sitting here, right? How long is this M going to last? Some more years? After that? What happens? So is this M real? Actually, not permanent, impermanent. So the question asked in the Upanishad, and which the solution is offered through understanding, dialogue and practice, is there a reality in this M, for instance, sitting here, which lasts forever and doesn't die and go back, die and disappear? We don't know what happens to us. We keep working all our lives and then we are laid to rest. And then we think that is the only time we have peace. So you always write in the grave, R.I.P., rest in peace. We don't know if there is peace in there because we're not even aware under the earth what's happening. My Guru Maheshwarnath Babaji used to say, R.I.P. could also mean rise if possible. So, Vedanta is the understanding of that which is beyond appearances. and which is the essence of your being, of our being, yours and mine. And the good news is that when I say my being, in the depths of it, when I really realize it, my being is not different from your being. So therefore, when the Upanishad declared, the Mahavakya said, Tat Tvamasi, you are that, it meant, please understand that you are not what you think you are. But in true essence, you are a spark of that divinity which pervades this universe. And therefore, if it is in me, it must be in you. It can't be that it's exclusively in me. It's impossible. You and I have the same spark. To understand this is also Vedanta. In fact, Swami, I'm sitting here in Calcutta. Swami Vivekananda was asked once to define Vedanta. He was a master in defining things in 3 sentences. So he said, every soul is potentially divine. Every soul is potentially divine. To manifest this divinity, either through work, or through worship, or through wisdom, or through devotion, this is the essence of Vedanta. He said everything else are fancy trimmings, to say in his own words. So this is the essence of Vedanta. So what happens when one discovers that deep inside one's being, in the quietness of one's mind, when the heart is quiet and silent, when it's no more distracted or disturbed by anything, in that silence you suddenly wake up and say, oh my God, this is what I am. There is a spark of the divine which is in us, which is then accessed and understood and realized, and it is the same spark that is in all human beings. You know, the theory of equality, socialism and communism and so on, sorry, I'm sitting in Calcutta, I don't know whether there is trouble, but has failed everywhere. Because nobody is equal, or nobody is uniform. Everybody is different in some way or the other. I may have something which you may not have, qualities I mean, and you may have something which I don't have. So this equality is impossible. Economic, impossible, because it has not worked anywhere in the world, unless you make it into a dictatorship and say that you have to say you're equal. Or you have to say, oh, now we have economic equality. Otherwise it doesn't work. But there is one socialism that works. Swami Vivekananda gave a beautiful name. He called it spiritual socialism. So somebody said, what is this socialism? He said, every human being, forget about even living being, has in the core of their being a spark of the divine. Everybody has that. Therefore we are all equal. You may not see it, but that doesn't matter. The one who sees it knows that it is there. So in a way, we are the same, we're not different. Now to live with this understanding is the practice of Vedanta. If you can live with this understanding, it's not easy. Very often what happens, now, practical step. I'm going to the Gita now. Why Gita? Because the Gita explains this lofty Upanishadic truths in such a simple way in 18 chapters. You start with the first T and you cover all the 18 holes. We don't need the watering hole in the 19th. So, okay. And so now this step-by-step movement into the truth, this the Gita does beautifully in its 18 chapters. Look at the Gita. It's called the Song of the Lord, Bhagavad Gita. Although many people chant it, it should actually be sung because it's a Gita. Why is it called a song? Because poetry and song have a special status separate from prose. Many things cannot be expressed in prose, they can be expressed in poetry, which means what the Gita is trying to say and define is beyond ordinary understanding of prose. Now you heard the songs, beautiful music. Can anybody actually, here is another great singer sitting here. This time he didn't come, otherwise he usually starts the whole thing. How? What is the importance of? Now I'm going to take you to another way of thinking. You have to go this way, this way, this way and come, okay? Called fuzzy logic, not linear. Suppose can you conceive of any thought, thinking, any thinking, without a language? Suppose I say I'm going to think. I'm already saying in English now, I'm going to think. But actually when I think, depending on where I was born, maybe I'm thinking in Malayalam. Many of you may be actually originally thinking in Bengali. Somebody might be thinking in Spanish. Every thought is couched in a certain language. You cannot think without it. So therefore, because there is language, while language is very useful. If I didn't know English, now I can't. Bangla mein jani na, bhalo kare jani na. So, if I didn't know English, how would I be able to communicate with you? So it's important, yes. On the other hand, language can also cause divisions. Language separates also, because I am one language speaking. In fact, if you take Sanskrit, try to explain it in English. That's what I'm trying to do, the impossible. You can, to some extent, but you really cannot get the nuance of Sanskrit. Very difficult. How do you explain the word Atma? Soul? No. Ego? No. Both? Yes and no. So, language. You must have heard the ancient story from the Bible, from the Old Testament, story of Nimrod, the king, who became so powerful that he decided that he would build a tower. Later on it's called the Tower of Babel. We talk in many words without understanding. You say people are babbling, probably come from Babel. He built the Tower of Babel. He became so powerful, his ego was on a high. So he decided, I will build such a structure that from the terrace of that structure, I will shoot an arrow. That arrow will hit the throne of God. So he got hundreds and thousands of people to build it. He went up and shot the arrow. The moment he shot the arrow and hit the Almighty or whatever, Supreme Brahman or whatever you want to call, decided that this fellow needs to go because he has reached a state where he thinks he's bigger than his own ego, even bigger than his own ego. So how did the whole thing get destroyed? The story is suddenly everybody started speaking in different languages. Each couldn't understand what the other was saying. There was a complete ruckus there and everything collapsed. People hit each other, killed each other and everything broke and fell down. Language. However, there's one thing which you can say is taught beyond language. What is that? Music. Beautiful music. If you hear the Fourth Symphony of Beethoven, even if you don't know any language, most people are rooted to the spot. If you are listening a cowherd boy playing the flute in Vrindavan, the gopis forgot who they were and ran to see what's going on. There's no word there, there's only sound, it's music, a sound of music. That's the sound, the music. Now, that music is one step beyond ordinary words. And it is this music which is part of poetry, song. It is that which connects, which is definable by words to that which cannot be defined by words. The connection, the link is music, which is why in all spiritual disciplines, in all religions, there is this music which takes us away from the ordinary things of life to that which is beyond. Therefore the Gita is called Bhagavad Gita, because here the Lord is playing his music on his flute. Although it's in the battlefield, people say, oh, it's in the battlefield. How can somebody teach 18 chapters of profound Vedanta in the middle of a battlefield? If you accept Krishna as a divine being, he could do anything. If you don't, well, that's a different matter. So, here you go. So, the first chapter of the Gita, and one more thing before we move, if you really need to listen to music, the flute has to be hollow, right? Can you blow through a flute filled with muck? So if I say I want to hear the music of the Lord, Bhagavad Gita, I need to clear my flute first. And when my flute is clear of muck, then all the 7 holes are the 7 centers in my Sushumna. And when the Lord plays his music, sorry if I made a mistake. So, this is the Gita. So, the first chapter of the Gita is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Yoga of Arjuna's insecurity, the yoga of Arjuna's fear, restlessness, uncertainty, sorrow. You can define it with many words. It's a Sanskrit word, remember. Vishada. Here stands Arjuna, uncertain what to do, where to move, what is my path, how do I go? He's in dire sorrow. There's a beautiful statement in the Guru Granth Sahib of the Sikhs. Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. When sorrow strikes, then people start calling you God. When you're happy, you light an agarbatti, say hello and move on. But actually, oh God, what's happened? It happens with sorrow. So, Arjuna is in that situation. He's standing on sorrow now. He doesn't know where to move, where to go, how to move forward. So that's very good idea of Vyasa to put that first. Yoga of Arjuna's Vishada. Then it goes step by step. Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and so on. Now, what I'm going to point out to you, there is one chapter, the 12th chapter. The 12th chapter is called Bhakti Yoga, Yoga of devotion. Several people ask, why did Krishna wait for so long, or why did Vyasa wait for so long to talk about devotion? Why couldn't he say that in the first place, in the beginning? Problem is, in the beginning, Arjuna would not have understood it. He had to go through up to chapter 11 to be able to understand the 12th. Look at this carefully. Many of you must have read the Gita. Till the 9th chapter, it's a dialogue, just like you and me talking. Arjuna is listening and Krishna is talking. It's supposed to be a dialogue, but most of the time Krishna is talking. Sri Bhagavan Vacha. In between, Arjuna sometimes butts in, Arjuna Vacha, and then it goes on. But then they're like friends. They're like they're relatives, they're friends. Krishna is driving his chariot actually, he's his driver, his chauffeur. And Arjuna is sitting here, the king. They're good friends, and Krishna is turning around and talking. You might have seen the popular pictures in the Gita, talking. So everything is okay. To use a funny expression, everything is hunky-dory, no problem here. Arjuna asks questions, Krishna answers. Arjuna sometimes says, I don't understand what you say, can you explain? Then, now Krishna begins to feel the time for him to understand that what I am trying to express is beyond the ordinary logic of the limited human brain. So what does he do? Changes the record completely. Comes the 9th chapter where Krishna suddenly changes his voice, his record, and says, among the mountains I am the Meru, among the immovables I am the Himalaya, among the rishis I am Kapila. And Arjuna is wondering, what's happening now? This guy was sitting with me, talking like friends, explaining to me, and now he says, I am Meru, the mountain Meru. I am the Rishi, I am Muni, I am Kapila, I am the Himalaya. Among the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. So Arjuna is now beginning to doubt if in reality this guy in front of me is actually what I think he is. Or is it something else? His little brain is beginning to wonder, did I judge with my limitations? Was there something beyond? And then comes the 11th chapter, finale, kind of, where there is what you call Vishwarupa Darshana. Suddenly Krishna turns into something else. All the gods are coming out of him, the worlds are coming out of him. Arjuna sees, he just, so his so-called little mind, ordinary logic, is broken to pieces. And it is then that there begins the 12th chapter of Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. What happens? Now Arjuna is ready to understand that there are things beyond ordinary logic into which one has to move forward. So, now I'm coming to the substance of this 12th chapter. Many things are explained, of course. And then, somewhere along the line, Arjuna asks Krishna, what are the qualities of a great yogi? Can you tell me? He asks Krishna, what are the, if you say, now I'm ready to accept, who is a great yogi or who is a great bhakta? Because in this chapter, yogi and bhakta kind of merge with each other. Some places Krishna says, Yaha bhakta same priya, this bhakta is dear to me. Some places he says yogi. So they're mixed. What he's trying to say, bhakta and yogi are not different, this is what he means. So Arjuna asked this question. He says, some people say that you worship the Supreme Being as the absolute, undefinable, ungraspable Brahman. Are those who worship you that way great rishis? Or those who say that you can be worshipped as you are sitting here before me with your form and name, are these greater yogis or are they greater yogis? Please tell me. So Krishna, as usual, avoids the answer directly. In a roundabout way comes back, as he usually does. Because ordinary logic is quite linear. So he says, look, true, great rishis have touched the Supreme as the formless and so on. Understood. But you and me, he actually doesn't say you and me, I am saying, you and me, who live in this world of name and form, would find it very difficult to touch the absolute. It's like trying to learn swimming in the ocean instead of trying your little swimming pool. It's rather difficult. Why? Because we are name and form oriented. We are all caught up in this nama rupa. If you say, no, I am not ready to accept it. See, what do we do early in the morning when we wake up? When we go to brush our teeth, what is the first thing? Impulse. Look at the mirror. How many more hairs have grayed? How many more wrinkles are there? Are my eyebrows trimmed properly? Ask ladies this way. Oh, we are always looking at, have I shaven properly? Is there something? So I am so interested in my own form and name, but I want only the Supreme to be without form. Why? Because the human mind can deal only generally to start with name and form, nama rupa. It's called in Vedantic terminology. So he says, okay, that's fine. However, it doesn't matter what mode of worship is adopted. How you look at the Supreme, that's not important. Because it's, after all, your idea of the Supreme, not the Supreme. So it's not important. You can be this or that, but a yogi, according to me, the greatest of yogis, is one who has certain qualities. And what are the qualities? He starts by saying, Samniyam Indriya Gramam, one who has control over his emotions and senses. Quality number one. Qualification number one, a bhakta or a great yogi is one who has control over his emotions and over his sense organs. Samniyam Indriya Gramam. Second qualification, Sarvatra Samabuddhaya, who remains tranquil in the midst of all circumstances. See, we live in this world, it's usually a roller coaster ride. We depend on what others say. If you praise me, then I am on cloud 9. If you say I'm a fool, then I am down in the dumps. This is our life. According to Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yogi, a muni is one, tulya ninda astutirmauni, one for whom praise and blame are equal. He doesn't care. Well, politicians also don't care, but that's a different chap. They carry on doing what they want. So, tulya ninda astutirmauni, one who is not affected by ninda or stuti, by praise or blame. Why? Because his mind is then tranquil. It's called a sthita prajna, one who is not disturbed. Now suppose you call me a fool, let's say. You say this guy saying all this is actually a fool. If I don't know English, what happens? Nothing. What if I know only Hindi? I think you're calling me a fool and be very happy. Did really what happened? Nothing happened. It's the language. Right? It's my mind. So can I move beyond that and say, can I keep my mind tranquil in the midst of all circumstances? Krishna says, such a person who has attained that capacity, I consider to be a great yogi. Third, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rata, one who has the welfare of all living beings in his heart, his or her heart. Who has concern for every living being. When I say every living being, please include human beings also in his heart. Now this is the qualification of a great yogi or one who has understood the essence of Vedanta. Now if you lead such a life, what happens? First, you lead a truthful life. Because having found the treasure inside, there's another great yogi who at 2,000 years or more wandered the streets of Jerusalem. He was a great yogi. In our language, if you talk in India, he would have been called a parivrajak, one who keeps walking, moving from place to place, who has no place to stay. Today, homeless is a bad word. The Gita calls such a parivrajak aniketa, one who has no house. Why? The whole world is his house. Such a person who just had a robe to wear and little bit food to eat, wandered from place to place, climbs up the mountain and teaches. One of the things he says is, lay treasures in your heart where thieves do not break in and steal. What is this treasure in the heart? From the point of view of Vedanta, this treasure is your inner being. No matter what you possess in the outside world, the inner being is rich, it's full of treasures. It's joy itself. It's this joy that we try to seek outside in the outside world. And once you reach there, you're not dependent on what others think or what you get from the outside world. You're in your own happy understanding of the truth, which is that you are a spark of the divine, of the all-pervading supreme reality, whose quality itself, attribute is Satchidananda. Sat means being the truth, Chit means consciousness, and Ananda is Anantam Anandam Brahma, unending happiness. It's like the ocean with the waves of happiness coming and going, not dependent on anything outside. Now such a person, would he cheat somebody to get happiness? What for? It's here right in the heart. Where would you look for? The temple is here. Like Swami Vivekananda said, every human being is a walking, speaking temple of God. So how do we worship? By serving those who are in trouble. He called them Daridra Narayana. Narayana in the form of poverty. Serving them, looking up, is the greatest Pada Puja that you can do. Pada Sevanam. Words of Vyasa. So, a person who touches that inner reality leads a life, or even who is attempting to touch it, at least speculating that perhaps there is an inner being, he leads a life in this world. Don't think he becomes inefficient. He becomes very efficient. Look at Swami Vivekananda, another example. One more example from his life. He died at the age of 41, 42, what? 39? Yeah. Can you imagine? 1,000 people in 1,000 years couldn't have done the work this man did. Where did he get his energy from? The energy came from his utter selflessness. And how? Because what he wanted is already here, he had done. He's touched, he's tranquil, and he is working for others, so that at one point he said, somebody said, we want to teach Vedanta to the villagers. He said, shut up. They're hungry. Give them food to eat. Teach them how to stand on their own feet. Then teach them Vedanta. Not before that. Why? Because he was full of the Spirit. And he was merely sharing it with others. So if you can live that way, at least imitate such great beings, if you actually haven't touched that so much. In fact, when you start imitating, you will find such great satisfaction in your inner heart, it will become a way of life. And when you live this way, then you are a Vedantin and you are living in this world which you think is always changing. But you are on a platform, you are on a stage, you are your anchor is the unchanging stillness of reality, which is blissful. This is the way to understand Vedanta and also lead a life in this world. You cannot run away from this world. Believe me, those days are gone. I want to tell you a very strange story. I was a young man. Well, I ran away. But I have understood, so you don't have to run away. I was in the Himalayas, in Rishikesh, walking around. And there was this young South Indian brahmachari sadhu was there. And he came to me one day and he was very upset. He said, I don't like Rishi, I'm not going to stay. I said, what happened? He said, hey, there's so much noise from morning till evening, tourists are coming. Okay, so what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to go, there is a cave in Lakshman Jhula. I'm going to go there and stay there and meditate. Okay, so I tried. I was wondering where he was going to get his food. Anyway, he went. 5 days later, I see him back, cursing Lakshman Jhula. Actually, it's your mind, it's not the outside world. I said, what happened? He said, you won't believe this. He said, I was there 3 days, I was very happy sitting in the cave. Of course, there were mosquitoes, he said. And then the 4th day, I opened my eyes and I thought, finally, someone from the other world has come to bless me. There was a guy with maybe he came in a spacecraft or something on his face and there was a tube coming out. So I put my hands and said, did namaskaram and said, who are you? He said, I am from the municipality. I have come to spray for mosquitoes. Where are we running? There is no way to go. You go to the farthest end of the Himalaya, there is somebody spinning, making tea, selling. So, this is not the way. And also, suppose you find a nice cave, let's say, a beautiful cave far away, and you go and sit there and meditate. My Guru Babaji used to tell me, suppose you live for 10 years in the cave and meditate 10 hours a day, suppose. Okay. And then at the end of 10 years, you say, now I have become a perfect yogi. I have no anger against anybody. I have no, jealousy is a terrible disease and it's the strangest thing because other things are okay, but jealousy, nothing happens to me. Somebody is happy and I am unhappy. I mean, it's very strange. So anyway, in Malayalam we have a saying in Kerala, we say, Kushumbinum kashandikku marunilla. That means there is no medicine for baldness and jealousy. So don't believe all those ads, okay? So here we are. You can wear a wig. Uh, so you're in the cave. 10 years, he asked me, 10 years, meditating 10 hours a day, and you think I'm free of anger, I'm free of... Babaji said, who are you angry with? With the cave? There's nobody there. Or are you jealous of the cave walls? So when you come out of the cave and get into a bus, and somebody kicks you on your leg, you know where you stand. Especially if it's a stiletto heel, you know where you are. Right? So, you can only test and know yourself when you're in this world. We are born into this world to move forward and be free of the obstacles that are before us. And we are born in this world to experience this world and while living here attain spiritual fulfillment. I understand short periods of solitude are essential, especially when you start your practices. I don't disagree with that. But you got to come back. You can't stay there forever. And it has been known in the history of spiritual understanding that the greatest of yogis and saints who have found illumination finally came out into the public. Why? Because they wanted to share the joy and the understanding that they had attained. That sharing is part of living in society. The Buddha came out. So did Jesus Christ. Swami Vivekananda wandered so many years, then he came out into the public right there. As far as Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is concerned, he never escaped anywhere. He was there all the time. Yesterday evening I went to Dakshineshwar. I've never seen it so beautifully decorated. Thanks to China, there were so many colored LED, but it was so beautiful. Not a bad thing. So beautiful. And the Devi was so decorated. I had never seen her like that for a long time. And Sri Ramakrishna lived there as a priest in that temple, meeting people, talking to people, and yet inside him was surging an ocean of bliss and self-realization of the Divine Mother. That is the way to live. He never even became a sannyasin. He never changed his robe. He just wore his clothes and he danced and he sang and he lived. In fact, many people thought, is he really a saint? And some people complain that he's spoiling all the youngsters who are coming to see him every week and giving them rasagullas. What are they studying here? But these are the stalwarts who later became the 12 disciples who built up Belumat and the whole Ramakrishna movement. Where did it spring from? From the utter humility and humanness of that being called Ramakrishna, who was actually, I think, spirit in human form, according to me. Many people have done sadhana in different ways, bhakti sadhana or yoga sadhana. Here is a man who in his life, an ordinary human being cannot do that, practice all the sadhanas that are prescribed in the scriptures, also Islam and Christianity for some point of time, and came out and said, they all lead to the same goal. I've seen it. How do you find a person like that? He had a simple life. I'm saying, we ourselves can live like that. It's not a far away thing. You have to just understand, keep the anchor here and spread your hands out into the world. Lead a life where you are soaked in the divine spirit and do service to humanity. Do your work, do your duties, work. Keep your anger under control. Vaishnava Jana told, just now you heard this wonderful being singing. Para upakar if you do, mana abhimanana anire, which means you can help anyone as much as you want. But don't feel that I have done this. Keep quiet. Because what you have is a treasure of the divine. You're only sharing it. It's not yours. Right? So if one can lead a life of understanding the inner self and working in this world and doing one's duties, without getting too caught up in all these too mystic things, people. Swami Vivekananda said the truth cannot be, so in dark rooms and whispered into. It's like the sun that gives light to everybody. It's an open book. So, if one lives with this understanding, believe me, I also work a lot, I travel a lot. It's not that I know my good friends who know, they say, today I'm here, tomorrow I'm there. I don't know where I am. Sometimes when I sleep, I forget which direction the bathroom is at night. So one night I'm here, the next day it is there. But does one get perturbed? Is the mind tranquil? If you ask me, I would say yes. Now, I would also say that it is possible for you also. Look, if I, with all my handicaps, I'm not talking about golf, can attain this, you can. You need, for me, of course, I had the blessings of a great teacher, Maheshwarnath. He put his hand on my head. Whatever I am saying today, whatever I know today, I promise, is because of the laying of that hand on my head. And this 3 years of training by him. I didn't learn anything more or anything less after that. Nothing. This is what my life is. So I'm saying, if I'm like this, why can't you be like this? At least think about it. Don't forget, don't think what religion you are. Nobody asked me when I set out for my inquiry, are you sincere? Yes, come. So, this is my message. This is what... The another problem is, when you are in this kind of situation, you forget what is today's subject. People get very worried. You get off the car, you say, hey, what am I going to say today? They said, oh God, no, this fellow doesn't know what he's going to talk about. Nothing happens. Now, because the mind is absorbed in itself, and you speak not by studying something, but by allowing the slate to be open. So whatever comes, comes. Right? You don't have to worry about it. And you don't have the agency. If I say, oh, I am going to talk, then somebody says, oh, it was horrible. Oh my God, I didn't talk. Believe me. So if you say not good, it's okay, fine. What am I supposed to do? I am saying what I feel like, what comes from inside, and this is important. Be kind, be good, help others, turn in and anchor yourself on the inner self. This is the way to live in this world. Lead a Vedantic life, to understand the inner and to work in the outside world. Please don't think it is impossible. It's possible. Nothing is impossible. Having said that, how much more time do we have? We started late anyway. Give me a few more minutes. Some people ask me, is this possible to do this? In this world of these temptations? I said, yes, it's possible to do this. Because in our true essence, we are actually that complete supreme reality. We don't realize it. So therefore, what is the corollary to that? That the potential is unlimited. Don't limit yourself, say, I can't do it. No, you can do it. There are obstacles, of course, but you can do it. Remember the great mantra of the Upanishads, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamaduchyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. That means that supreme reality, the origin of this world, is complete by itself, independent. But you say, then what happens? But I am not complete, I am incomplete. So what happens to me? Purnamidam, you are also complete. You don't see the completeness because you look for the completeness outside. Well, it is actually inside. Turn around and look. See your inner self. And there you find the truth. You will find that purnata, that completeness in you. It's because the mind knows, the subconscious mind knows somewhere at the back that one true essence has descended from that completeness, that it wants to become complete. Misunderstanding here is, it thinks I can become complete by acquiring, not by letting go. When this happens, then that purnata is felt inside as this purnata, purnamada, purnamidam, and it remains complete forever. Understanding this, look at others who feel they are incomplete and try to help them to become complete. Don't, like Swamiji said, don't teach Vedanta to empty stomachs. Give them food or teach them how to stand on their own. Then tell them, look, this is not the end of life. There's something more to it. And that is your true essence, which is the glorious spirit that shines, the all-pervading supreme reality, which the Ishavasya Upanishad calls Ishavashyamidam sarvam et kincha jagatyam jagat. I won't go into the Isha Upanishad because we'll need another few satsangs to go into this, but this is what it is all about. Thank you very much. Ritvik ji says, can I take some questions? I don't know if I can take them, but you can ask. But let's give it a slot, time slot. 5-6 minutes? No, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Or more, maybe. Is there a microphone here? Thank you. Absolutely. Just raise your voice a bit.
Yes, my question is very simple actually. It's about like how a person, see, once one experiences that akhandakara vritti that happens, the very nature of the vyavaharika changes altogether. Now after that vritti, because you're a yogi, it will be very easy for me to ask, after one has had that purna experience of that punyata, and they come back to this world, how is it that they, like in the daily vyavahara, how is it that the experience changes?
I understand. You see,
like from a normal person, the duality perception, how does it changes? Because that they come back to duality. That's what Shankara says.
True.
How does it change that?
I don't know what Shankara says, but I say that yes, we come back to duality. See, it's like this. Even when you touch that, and then you really don't want to come back to it. Honestly, I told my master, I told Babaji, now, he said, go back to the plains from there and live like an ordinary man. He said, pretend to live like an ordinary. Have a family, do work, okay, and carry on with life. And over a period of time, you'll get this urge to share what you have. Share it with them. I said to him, Babaji, please, can you let me out of this? I don't want to do this. Why would I go there? There's this beautiful Himalayas, there's a Ganga flowing, you get fresh water. Food, you get somewhere, it's nothing much. Why would I go back? So he asked me a very simple question. I'm saying because that's why I'm doing it. I don't know, other persons may have other reasons. He said, when you first came to me, on the second year you were with me, I asked you a question. I said, you asked me many questions. What is a specific question? All in Hindi, okay? He said, I asked you, between you and me, what do you consider your relationship to be? I said, oh yes, you did. So what did you say? You know, in 1 year I had kind of understood that this is someone rarely that I have found. So I said, I consider myself to be your dog. I said, I'm like a puppy. You know, you haven't seen this, but in the olden days we had his master's voice, a huge gramophone, which there's a dog sitting in front listening to it. So I said, it's like his master's voice. I think I am your dog, a puppy. He said, you said that? I said, yes, I said that. I remember it. And he said, what did I say? I thought about it. Then I remembered. I said, you said, you may be my puppy, but don't wag your tail too much. Did you say that? I said, yes. So he said, don't wag your tail. Go and do your work. do what I have to do. So therefore, I understand it was not easy to set back into the system. It's very difficult. But then, like a child which stands up, learns to crawl, then goes on its chest, then slowly stands up. This is another reverse process here, where you begin to come to terms. But since you are anchored inside, nothing happens. Well, once or twice, you might even go down a bit, but you know how to crawl back. This is the situation. Please ask. You seem to be very sincere and you seem to have read some Vedanta and you're talking about Shankara. How can I stop you?
Actually, I am from Ishwarashram. Lakshman juice.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Sorry, Lakshman juice.
Wonderful.
This is something very personal, like it's not something usual. But like there is a two-step question that I always have. Like once this I get destroyed, like this ego I, which I am identifying as myself, and the one that supreme thing comes over there.
It doesn't come, it's always there.
It's always there, that identity. There is a subtle fear, like in that particular leap, that leap of unknown. And how does one get over that particular, like what will happen after that? I don't know, will I be myself? Will I be an eccentric person? Will I be something entirely? Will anything come back? That particular period, that thing that holds one back. If you could shed some light on that, how does one...
Believe me, nothing will happen. Please believe me. Well, it also depends on the kind of character you are. Whatever you are, that may be a little exaggerated. I know people who have touched that and who behave in a very eccentric manner. I know. But that doesn't mean you will become like that. You understand? So it's difficult to gauge what kind of reaction. But one thing is sure, it will certainly not be suicidal. It will be quite creative. And it will be helpful to others. Just keep this in mind. And have no fear. You are leaving a small little I, right? But then you are embracing or understanding that you are the big I that pervades the universe. So there is no fear in that. Where the head is held without fear. What did Tagore say? Bhaya Shunya.
Pranam. Sir, in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna told a person should be refrain from pleasure or pain, praise or abuse, all such things. But some great rishis are missing such qualities. Just like Durvasa, Vishwamitra, Sanat Kumar, even for inadvertent mistake, the persons were severely cursed.
So that means those rishis who are like, there are other rishis who are not...
Even Narad also cursed Narayana.
No, 1 minute. 1 minute. That means even those rishis are there. There are also other rishis who are not like that.
Yes.
Right? So let's look at them. Let's not look at the other rishis. You can only understand that they were still in the progress of moving forward. They haven't reached. So in Sanskrit, this word rishi is a very tricky word. A rishi simply means one who is a scientist, who is doing his experiments on the inner sciences. Even Vatsyayana, who wrote the Kama Sutra, is called a rishi. So don't mistake, like when you say lama, you think all lamas are unmarried, holy. No, not so. These are terms. Rishis means wise men.
Yes.
Who are experimenting in the spirit as scientists experiment on the physical world, material world. So different rishis may be in different stages of development. They may not have attained perfection. If Vishwamitra had attained perfection at that point, why would he want to become like who? Vasishta.
Vasishta.
Why is he fighting for... Vasishta is not.
No.
See, so there are such rishis. We should keep that as the goal, not like Vishwamitra. Although later on it was the same Vishwamitra who gave us the Gayatri mantra. And it's very interesting to note that Vishwamitra, because he got the Gayatri mantra, He didn't invent it, it came to him. In the last sentence was, Diyo yona prachodaya, may my intelligence be stimulated, which means may I not become like what I was before. So, what I want to say, while you live in this world, even the greatest of men may have faults. Sometimes ignore them. Look at the good points.
Thank you, sir.
Move forward. I like your question. Kriya questions cannot be answered now in public.
Sir, you said that we should be trying to not get moved negatively or positively either by praise or criticism. Now, perhaps it could also mean that I may be wrong. This is my take on what you said. Perhaps it could also mean that I'm comfortable being myself. I accept the fact that I'm a package like anybody else. I have got negative, I have got positive. So if somebody is like that, then I am also this. My question is, if there is tendency to get complacent being myself, how do I evolve as a soul?
Say that again.
If I am being complacent, accepting myself as a package, then how do I evolve as a soul?
So first you have to accept, this is how I am. And then I see I need to make some changes. So the first step is what you're saying. Accept it first. Accept. If you don't accept it, you can't see it. You can't say, no, I am actually quite free of all this. It's a good thing to say, no, I'm not. I'm like this. But I want to change. So only when the aspiration to change begins to come in the mind, then you begin to work on it. Otherwise there's no need to change, right? Incidentally, I wanted to tell Deepu, who is doing the video, she looks like your mother. See? Turn around and look.
Maybe I was in some incarnation, sir, and we are one with all. I'm 71. He may be very well my son's age for all. Thank you, sir.
People think that when you are absorbed in the inner, then you become dull, you can't see. Actually, you have many more eyes to see.
Pranams. To what extent can we practice compassion in our daily lives?
As much as we can. As much as we can. Don't set a limit to it. Say that I am improving every day. I will be as compassionate as possible in my daily life. Unless you touch the inner, you cannot really practice compassion fully. Every attempt to do whatever we can is a big step. Don't even say compassion, say kindness, because compassion is a big word. Compassion comes only when one is touched, like the Buddha. Swami Vivekananda had this, he repeated it many times. He said, how I wish there was a great being who had the understanding and brain of Shankara and the compassion and heart of the Buddha. So, in future we should try to create such human beings. While on one side, all this Vedantic learning is fine, but if the heart is not there, nothing happens. So, in our small way, in spite of all our compulsions and distractions, try to practice compassion as much as we can. And the first step is, forgive and forget and move forward. In life, not only compassion. So you ask me compassion, but other things. We are never ready to let go. We hold on and hold on. Suppose 10 years ago you gave me a tight slap, I cannot forget it. Actually, the fact of the slap lasts only for an hour maybe, or maybe for a day if your tooth is gone or something. But beyond that, it doesn't last. But I won't let go of it. My mind keeps on playing that tape. He slapped me, so I have to slap him back. That is the reason. He slapped me, and there is no slap. The slap is over and done within 1 hour or 1 day. But I carry it for 20 years or 10 years. It's like a worm inside my head, moving on and on this tape. Oh, he slapped me, he slapped me. The slap doesn't exist, except in my mind. So when you say let go, which means can we every day when we go to sleep say, whatever hurts and troubles people have given me, can I throw it out of my window? Actually, you can even practice it like a hypnotic gesture. Throw it out of the window and go, when I get up in the morning, can I wake up to a fresh day? Next to you sitting somebody who sits on judgment on so many lives. A doctor, a surgeon sits on, deals with one life at a time. There are 10 people sitting and you are supposed to give the proper judgment. How does one keep one's mind and tranquil? Tell me. He told me yesterday, we had a discussion. He said, because rebirth on moksha. Should we? Last question. Rebirth, as far as I am concerned, is not a belief for me. I cannot prove it to you. But for me, it's not a belief. It's a fact for me. What I am today, I can see very clearly, is the result of what has happened in several lives. This is the result. And what I am doing now will be future. Now, when you say the word moksha, it means when you have passed through the cycle of life and death many times, if you believe it. I mean, I can't make you believe it, but it's my experience. And then at one point, you finally discover that what I was searching for, I have found. Then there is no desire to come back, because you come back again in this cycle only because you still some desires left. Good or bad. Everything is over. The candles, the flame of the candles have been blown off. Nirvana, Buddhists call it. And there's nothing. You don't have to. That is called moksha. That the freedom, the feeling of freedom in your mind of not wanting to come back ever, there is no. But remember this. This concept is there in the Buddhist, Mahayana Buddhist very much. It's a beautiful concept. We also have it in a different way in the Hindu system of thought. But there are two kind of perfect people. One is called the Arahant. Arahant is one who has attained nirvana. Or we can call it moksha if you want. Yogic terminology, yoga darshanas, you can say he has attained kaivalya. He is free. He is basking in the glory of having attained that freedom from bondage. Now, there is another set of people who are called Bodhisattvas. The Bodhisattva is one who has touched nirvana. One foot is across the border. Other foot, he wants to keep it there, he is hesitating. He says, no, I'm not going now. Right? So many people are suffering because they don't understand this truth of nirvana. May I be born countless number of times on this earth so that I can take at least one person back with me into nirvana. This is called the Bodhisattva. And in fact, the Bodhisattva is respected more than the Arahant. It's because this coming back is not antithesis to moksha, it's a deliberate coming back to help others with the understanding of what moksha is. So moksha actually means freedom. In ultimate freedom, a person decides to stay away or to come back. It's up to him. But when such a person comes back, he's a free person. I think Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was one such, according to my limited little understanding. And I think that Swami Vivekananda was also one such. There are some others I don't want to use names, but thank you. Next time. Sorry. Okay, 1 minute. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Any other questions are there? Please come tomorrow to the press club. Everybody is allowed. No? Everybody is. You come, we can have another interaction. It will basically be an interactive session. 3:30? So let me once again say that it was a great beginning. Even though they came late, they came with music. So we heard the Gita first and then we started the pravachan. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Every time he finishes up, you feel like there is something more to it. And for that something more to it, you all will have to come and join us tomorrow at Press Club at 3:30 p.m. It will be a completely interactive session, so you can ask whatever you feel like.
You can destroy me.
I'll be failing on my duties if I don't thank Chief Justice Justice T. Radhakrishnan, who has been here all along, Mr. Vinay Paranjape, Mr. Amrik Singh of GIS Group, then Mr. Nilesh Mukhi, and everybody present here. Oh, Mr. Krishna Kulkarni. In fact, everybody, whoever is here, and thanks for being such a wonderful audience this Monday evening. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you so much.